Hello, what's good, Peoria? Welcome to State of Peoria, brought to you by State Farm agent Aaron Kaergard, located at 3805 North Sterling Avenue, where he specializes in car, home, and life insurance and investments. You can make him work for you by calling 309-685-7111. And of course, I'm Marc Supreme.
And I'm Chris Kaergard.
This is our 10th installment of the collaboration of the Strictly Hip Hop PJ Star interview series, and it's all about the P.
And today we are less than 1 week away from Peoria's election, less than 1 week away from knowing who our next mayor is going to be in Peoria. And we've got both of those candidates with us tonight. Rita Ali and Jim Montelongo, both sitting members of the Peoria City Council, both seeking to move up to the mayoral seat. Thank you, Rita, Jim, for being with us again tonight to face off and share your ideas and vision for Peoria.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
So real quick, so both of you guys have been on State of Peoria, so we appreciate you guys coming back again. People have gotten to know you guys through not only this platform, but through other platforms where people have been trying to give candidates like yourselves an opportunity to articulate your candidacy, your platforms, and your vision for Peoria. So we're going to start things off a little bit different this time. And I want to start off with the question of, is there anything about Peoria or your platforms that you've maybe wanted to address that you haven't had the opportunity to address already up until this point? And we'll start with Jim.
I think everything's been pretty thorough with everybody. I think we've crawled into every space here to have that discussion. I'm pretty happy with the way some of these forums have gone, and I think we've both had a chance to articulate what our vision is and answer those tough questions.
Okay, Rita?
Sure. I would just add that, I've identified the 5 different elements of my platform, but the whole idea behind my platform is to bring everybody together, the key stakeholders, the citizens of Peoria, to create that new vision for Peoria together, not in silos, but working together to create a new vision and a new comprehensive strategic plan that we will build together over time.
Okay, and so the ironic part about this here election is, Jim, you're running for mayor, but you already announced that you're not seeking another term for 4th district. So you're not coming back to the Horseshoe regardless unless you're elected mayor. And Rita, you are coming back to the Horseshoe regardless if you're not elected mayor. I want to start with you, Jim. The District 4 seat has been chronicled in the last several weeks with Stephen Corey getting that appointment and now leaving Andre Allen unchallenged. As you essentially depart from the 4th district as council person, looking back, how do you feel leaving the 4th district behind, and what is your sense on the future for the 4th district with you being gone?
Sure. I'm very happy with the direction in the state of the 4th district. I have worked very hard for the last 8 years for the people in 4th district. I'm widely endorsed by many of the neighborhood association presidents, and that says a lot. I'm most proud of, first of all, being able to deliver on the basic city services for my constituents. I'm very proud of having 8 years of monthly meetings with my constituents. They come from all different neighborhoods to my breakfast meeting with them, where we solve issues and make neighborhoods better and safer for people. Very proud of the business roundtable that I've created between the businesses around Northwoods Mall and Westlake Shopping Center and Glen Hollow. Together, they've built common goals in moving that business district forward to being one of the highest tax generators for our city. Created neighborhood associations and neighborhood watch groups, and we've got many road projects done. I'm very proud of the work that we've done. I was happy for Steve Corey to get this job. I think he'll be a great voice for the people in his state position. And I look forward to working with Andre Allen.
Now, Rita, one of the things people have been curious about is the process that occurs should you be elected. As I mentioned before, if you're not elected, you're still going to be on the council in your at-large seat. But for the people not familiar with local government, can you break down what happens with your council seat in the event that you do become mayor?
Sure. In the event that I am elected mayor, then there's an opening for an at-large seat, which would be the seat that I vacated. And the typical process is that we open up an opportunity for citizens to apply to fill the remainder of those remaining 2 years of that seat. So typically there's an interview process, there's an application process that's online, that's posted. Anyone can, apply. There's typically a lot of applicants. I've actually done that before myself. And then the city, there's a process that's set up that's led by the mayor and in agreement with the city council. And there's a vetting process to where you go through and you're looking at resumes, you decide who you're going to interview. And then ultimately the council, sometimes by consensus, it doesn't have to be, it could be by majority vote, but the council decides, who is going to be appointed to the remaining of that seat. It could be somebody who is not planning to run, when the at-large election comes up again, or it could be somebody who has every intention to run when the at-large election takes place again, or it could be somebody that doesn't know whether they're going to run again. But again, there is a process of selection. There is an appointment by the city council, and I would hope, if I'm elected mayor, that it's a like-minded individual that would replace me in that important at-large seat.
Rita, we'll stay with you. The Derek Chauvin trial is currently going on with regards to the lynching of George Floyd, the second most talked about topic next to COVID in the last year. The city is going to be hiring a new chief of police, not going into the qualifications because obviously we want somebody to be qualified. But what approach to policing and priorities would you like to see in Peoria as we move on to the next chief of police in Peoria?
Sure. I've worked in this area, working with the community and police for a very long time. For 6 years, I chaired the Police Community Relations Commission. And actually, when I was 14 years old, I was the first youth that was appointed to the initial commission. There's some important bridges that we have to build between our community and police. We really fought hard to get cameras, body cams within our police force. I think that we were very progressive in making that happen. I supported that, as well as no chokeholds and some of those concerns. And also, I think selecting this police chief has to be not in a vacuum. It has to involve the citizens of Peoria. And we should select someone who has strong ability to lead and to build bridges between the community. I'm proud to have been endorsed by the local police PAC. It means that they have confidence in me, in my leadership, to further build bridges between our community and the police. And we still have a lot of work to do because there's parts of our community that very much do not have adequate trust in the police. So this position, Marcus, is very important. We cannot get it wrong. We have to get it right, and we have to do it in conjunction with the citizens of Peoria.
And I appreciate the answer. What I want to do is kind of dig a little bit deeper and get to the overall approach to policing and the prioritization that the chief of police would have as far as not only himself, but also the officers that are under them or under him or her. Is there any approach or change of approach that you would like to see with regard to the Peoria Police Department?
Well, what I would like to see is community-based policing. And that's where, the community is always at top priority in terms of decisions are made. And that's where body cams were important because it makes the police more accountable. It makes the citizens more accountable as well. Those are the types of decisions with community-based policing that take place. Community-based policing also engages the community in terms of getting input from them, having a strong complaint process, working, with community groups. We have a number of community groups. Sure, we can do better. I believe that we should also always be in a reform stage. We're always improving, and that's why we have the CALEA methodology that was also instituted in Ferguson, Missouri after the police involved murder there, a police involved shooting there. So, you know, I think that the CALIA process is important. It has a strong community element. We were certified about 2 years ago with CALIA.
Thank you. Jim, same question. Do you need me to repeat it?
Yes, please.
The Derek Chauvin trial is currently going on. The lynching of George Floyd, second most talked about topic next to COVID. And the city is going to be hiring a new chief of police. And so obviously not necessarily getting into qualifications. We want somebody that's qualified. But is there, or what are the approach and policing and priorities would you like to see in Peoria as we move on to the next chief of police in Peoria? So the approach to policing.
You know, I think our approach to policing has to be, we have to change the mindset of the people in Peoria and our police department. Our approach has to be different, where the people and the visitors that come to Peoria, where they see our police department as guardians of our community and people that they can trust. I think that's probably the biggest and most important thing. So when we're talking about hiring the new police chief, I think it is important, as part of this discussion, is that the police chief would have some experience already from his previous job of building culture within the police department and building that rapport. Trust is so important, not only within the police department, but also with the community. I think that is really important. In the years past, I just remember a police chief that we had before. You go to Kroger's, you would see him outside Kroger's. You go to a football game, basketball game, what have you. You had a police chief that was visible to the community, and I think there was a lot of trust with that police chief. So I would like to see that same kind of approach, where once again the community sees our police and our chief very much part of the community and seen us as protectors of our community.
I want to stay with the city and the hiring of positions. Chief Diversity Officer left his post with the city and moved on. Some say it was because he didn't have enough support to get anything done. Others say that he left for better opportunity. That job is still up for people to apply to. What can we do not only to support, but retain the next Chief Diversity Officer? Rita?
Sure. You know, that position was very important to the city of Peoria. We have to, I think, one, get it right, make sure that we have the right fit this time. I don't know that we did have the right fit previously, but I think that we do have to make sure that we have the right fit, someone who is committed for the long term and does have the support of the administration to do their job. I think that there's groups like the NAACP and other groups that really attempted to work with the prior diversity officer. I think that has to continue, that kind of advocacy. I know that that group, the NAACP, has some input into redesigning or having some input into the new job description before it was posted. So that was important. And some changes and some modifications were made. And the city manager and the director of human resources, they were very open to that input and those changes. So, you know, I'm familiar with this position. I've been involved as a diversity leader within first Bradley University. I was Bradley's first director of multicultural student services. I was Illinois Central College's first director of diversity, and now I'm vice president of workforce and diversity. So I know this area. I know how important it is, but it also has to be a strategic position that really helps to build positive culture amongst diverse staff, amongst diverse communities. It takes a leader, a person who is a leader. So I really, you know, I'm encouraging people to apply, people that have those competencies within the field of diversity, and who can actually be a leader and bring people together and move things forward as it relates to diversity, equity, and inclusion within the city of Peoria.
Thank you. Jim, same question.
You know, I think what's important is for us to probably have a meeting with the council and really visit on what that job description is of the person. And really, I've not had the chance to see the exit interview and really understand what the, I guess the issues, why there was a departure. We thought, you know, the times that I've seen him out in the community, working with the Chamber of Commerce, working with Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, I know he was making his rounds in and cared about making sure that there were business opportunities or contracts available. I was happy to see that part, but I would think it's important that we get together and understand what that job is. And right now that we have a void, to make sure that that voice is being heard and perhaps that job is being fulfilled right now today until we fill that new position.
Thank you. I'm going to kick it over to Chris. Shout out to everybody that tuned in and are watching currently. We appreciate it. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to throw them in the comments. We will be getting to them momentarily. Chris?
Absolutely. And we love the statements in there. We love the back and forth. But if you've got questions for the candidates, please put the questions there. We want to get those in front of these two fine folks in a little bit here. I want to start off with this because it's a topic that's in front of the city council right now that'll be decided over the next couple of months. Jim, one of your campaign commercials that's in heavy rotation, I heard it probably 3 times during the course of the day today, talks about how you'll work, and I quote, spending one-time federal aid to get ahead of massive pension and CSO bills. Now, obviously, and you've acknowledged that we can't use that money specifically to pay for pensions themselves, but it speaks to a broader plan there. So I want to know first from you and then from Rita after, what's your plan? How would you spend that $47 million that we've got coming down the pike?
Sure. I like to kind of tell a little story here so people can help understand kind of the position that we're in. So kind of imagine that we have this house with foundation issues, structure issues, a roof that's falling in, and a crumbling driveway. For some reason or another, you come into a lump sum of money. What are you going to do with the money is the question. Are you going to go run out and buy a big screen TV with broadband, or are you going to fix your house? The answer is you got to fix your house. Much like the city, we've come upon this $47 million. We have, in order to close a gap for this year's budget, we had to take out a $10 million bond, which we haven't taken yet, or loan, so that people understand that part. It's a loan that we are going to take. So we would take $10 million from the COVID relief money and not take out that bond. Second, I think we need to work on our roads, certainly fixing the potholes throughout our city, but working on that preventative maintenance so that our roads aren't costing us more money later. That is really important to get our roads in a continuous improvement every year. Right now, our trajectory is going down. So it's important that we put enough money in to get our roads stabilized in a place where it's not costing us more money. It's kind of like having termites on wood. If you don't do the applications now, pretty soon it will be a complete reconstruct. You'll have to throw the wood out and get something new.
So Jim, let's do the math on that then. 10 million to not take out the loan takes us down to 37 million. How much do you want to spend of that remaining 37 million on the roads? I'm going to force you both to do math on this.
So, we got 12 million, talking to our city manager, we got about 12 million in roads for this year. We need to work yet with our public works to understand exactly what that amount is. In the past, we were like at 9 million. So we're definitely going forward. I don't have the exact number, but as we lay this all out in front of us with some new numbers, and we've been, as a council, we've hired to have our roads scanned so that we have the CPI, which is the PCI, the Pavement Condition Index, so that we know where are the bad roads, and is also with the amount of traffic that's going on with them, so we can prioritize which roads we're going to get done. So that is really important for us. The next part of it, I think, as well, is we need to make sure that we fill up our reserves, because we're going to need that money in the future. Not only that, when we fill up our reserves, we will have a better bond rating, which signals, I guess, to the financial community that Peoria is responsible. It'll save us in interest on our bonds. But the most important part of it is making sure that we have money for the future to pay for basic city services as we start paying for our pensions, the Pier Marquette, and the stormwater, the CSO. So those are why we need to make sure that we have the right amount in our reserve so that we can deliver on our basic city services in the future.
So how much are we putting into reserves then?
Well, the remaining after we figure out exactly the road amount that we need.
Okay, so you're open to then splitting the remaining 37 million between those two priorities, roads and reserves.
Right. I mean, the most important thing is we cannot squander our money. We need to be responsible with this one-time amount of money that we're getting, and hopefully there's some more coming. I know there's another bill that's being passed here, and hopefully it does. We're able to be the recipient of that for our roads in the future. But right now, I'll believe it when we see the money in our account. I think that's the most important thing. We have to be responsible with this money.
All right. And same question, Rita, hit me with your math on how you would use that 47 million.
Sure. First of all, I think too many assumptions are being made about what this money can be used for. There are some there's some intent involved with this funding. One, it says the guidelines indicate that we can't use it to reduce pension. We can't use it to reduce property taxes. It does have an emphasis on addressing the immediate needs of some of our individuals, some of our citizens, some of our businesses. The money is not really designed to be just taken and put into our reserve funds. Certainly, I think that we can do something to address that $10 million loan that we were taking out in terms of issuing bonds. I'm not opposed to that. I'm certainly open to that. But this money was not intended to just be taken and placed into a reserve fund. It's intended to be used by the community to address our immediate needs. We've been struggling. We have businesses that have been going out of business, going under, some of them leaving. We need to rescue more of our businesses within our community. We need to put some things in place to support our community, that infrastructure. And let me say this about infrastructure. We are looking at possibly nationally a $2 trillion infrastructure bill that's likely to come down. That's going to provide more money for roads and highways and bridges for communities and cities all across our nation. And Peoria is certainly included or will be included in that. So I know once that bill is approved that we're going to get more infrastructure money that will support roads. We can't place all this money into roads. Secondly, I want to talk about broadband, high-speed internet services. This is something that is now considered a basic need. Everybody, when you apply for a job, for the most part, you need internet access, preferably high-speed broadband to apply for a job, to access health services, to access virtual learning. Internet services is a basic need now. There are some really innovative and creative things that some areas are doing. Oregon, Ohio, I think somewhere in New York, where they're taking these street lights and they're replacing the bulbs with these lid bulbs that make the community more walkable, especially in the high-risk areas. And then they're putting Wi-Fi on that street light, and it is providing access to the entire block. I mean, it's pretty amazing, but those are some of the investments that we could also begin to make because they encourage you to use it also to support internet access. So, what I want to do, Chris, is not just decide in a vacuum what happens with this money. I want to get input. I want to have some hearings, and I want to get some input from our community. I don't want to make rash decisions or too quick decisions or say, let's just fill this hole because we want to fill this budget gap right here. We need to be creative. We need to be responsive, and we need to be inclusive with this decision process. And we'll have two payments. And we'll have 2 years to be able to spend this money. We don't have to spend it right away, but it's not about just throwing it in a reserve fund just to build up our reserves. It's about addressing the immediate needs of our community.
Any sense on what some of those other obligations that we have to pay out of this are that might whittle it down beyond that 10 million? If we have to go back to use some of it to refund other money that we have spent, or for that matter, money that you would spend on specifics like business relief?
Sure. I definitely looking at how we could support our businesses. But, I think too, we've cut some services. There are services that we've cut because of COVID. Well, some of this money is designed to address some of those needs. When we cut people, we cut services to the community. When I worked for the city many years ago, there were over 1,000 full-time employees. Now there's 615 full-time employees. And I'll tell you, those cuts in staff ultimately result in cuts in services. And we've seen that with regard to community development. We've seen it with public safety. We've seen it with public work. Throughout the city, some areas have really been devastated. And even economic development, we had for many years an economic development department. And we so need to develop our economy, and we need staff resources. We can't just rely on other entities to address the city of Peoria's economic development needs.
Okay. I want to stick with you for a second, Rita, and then move over to Jim and talk about campaign finance for a moment here. And I want to ask you both about some specific contributions that you've gotten. Rita, you've taken campaign contributions from the city's police and fire union PAC and from AFSCME, among others. Those are all unions that the city has collective bargaining agreements with, collective bargaining agreements that are renegotiated from time to time. And what do you say to voters who might have a concern over that political support when you're also one of the votes on that next contract being renegotiated and on any potential staffing changes, hiring or reduction?
Sure. I've always taken the position where possible to retain staff where we didn't necessarily have to make cuts. And these organizations are aware of my support for public safety. They're aware of my support for public works. They're aware of my support for community development. And, for those reasons, just for the same reasons that businesses support me because I support business. And that's what you get. I had, just like individuals support you based upon your position on certain issues. So that's what's happening here in terms of the support that I get from various labor organizations. And you'll see I have support from various labor organizations. Many of them are not even connected with the city of Peoria. Some of them are just organizations within the city that support other, businesses or entities. So I don't see a major conflict of interest. None of those organizations, there's no agreement from me to make a certain vote on a certain issue. There's been none of those discussions. It's been totally with integrity and respect for the process. I believe in, union negotiations with administration to be fair, to be respectful. I like the process of interest-based bargaining. I know the city has not taken that process on, but I like the process of people coming to the table to do interest-based bargaining. So again, I'm not in anybody's pocket. Nobody's in mine. They provide support for, just like a business would, for the candidate that they see supports some of their views or opinions.
Okay. And Jim, conversely, you've also taken it appears to me tens of thousands of dollars from proponents of the city pursuing the water company buyout option, something that in and of itself could carry a price tag of tens of millions of dollars with it. What does their support mean to your priorities?
You know, my discussion with anybody who has made any contribution, they tell me, Jim, we believe in you. You have done the work for 12 years on that council. We've seen you as a responsible person, a fiscal conservative, spending the taxpayers' money wisely. We've seen the work that you've done time and time again. We believe in the direction that you are going. There was never no discussion about anybody wanting something from me, but more of they understand the work that I've done over this 12 years, and they believe I am the person that's going to turn Peoria around, and know that I'm going to be focused on our small, medium-sized business to get the growth that Peoria needs to have a new future. They see me as a fiscal conservative, somebody who's going to spend the taxpayers' money wisely. And I think that's what the business community is looking for, and that's why I have the contributions from some of the people. They like what I've done and my track record, what it stands for.
Okay, I'm going to get back to some more policy questions on my next round, but before I kick it back over to Mark, I want to ask both of you two questions. They're a little bit related, but I think the answers will be a little different. I'm going to put a time clock on you for these two, both of them. And Jim, I'm going to stay with you, then Rita, and then
Sure.
let the other one start for the next one. As mayor, you're chief salesperson for Peoria. Give me your 1-minute pitch. Why should I move a business here instead of East Peoria? Jim?
Thank you for that. You know, I think Peoria has so many great things to offer. The quality of life here for people, it's a great place to raise a family. It's a great place to buy a home. The prices of a home are so inexpensive here. The commute time from home to work to anywhere in Peoria is 15 minutes. We have the great quality of life here. And these are the things that I think businesses are looking for. Business friendly. Under the Montelongo mayorship, we will be changing the view that Peoria is a tough place to do business. We will be having a seat at the table for business people to help with making Peoria a business friendly place. We have great service support here from all the different Chamber of Commerces that we have, along with the Small Business Development Center and Bradley. Those are some of the great things. We are not going to be falling for any more taxes and fees that chase businesses out of here. There'll be a place that is business friendly.
Okay. Dr. Ali, same question to you. Aim for a minute so you hit 75 seconds, just like Jim.
Peoria is a beautiful and diverse community that has some of the best employers and medical providers throughout the nation. We have OSF healthcare, we have Unity Point Healthcare, we have the University of Illinois Extension. We have just some of the greatest employers with many job opportunities, from professional positions to paraprofessional positions that can attract people from all over. And it's not just about what Peoria is right now, because Peoria has some of the greatest historical sites. They have some of the best park districts. It has some of the best education institutions. It's also about what Peoria can become. And I believe that Peoria can become a place that attracts artists from all over. I believe that this is a place that the arts can really thrive. And you know, we have Preston Jackson, one of the best artists, I would say, in the state and the the nation that stands out. Peoria is a great place to raise your children.
Okay. And I'm going to ask this slightly different to both of you. If I'm somebody who's moving to the area, an individual who's going to buy a house in the area, why do I want to move to Peoria rather than Morton or Washington instead? Why should I be in Peoria instead of those places where I can still have access to everything Peoria offers? Rita?
Sure. I think sometimes people make those choices, but Peoria is actually more diverse in terms of culturally diverse, in terms of ethnically and racially diverse than those cities that you named across the river. And diversity is important to a lot of people. Getting to know people, having your children to know people that don't necessarily look like them, those that are a different race or different ethnicity or different culture. We have a strong international community right here in Peoria, more so than those cities across the river, where you can actually learn about other countries and other cultures. When I worked at Bradley University under Multicultural Student Services, I traveled around the world through the lives of my students, my international students. So, in terms of introducing difference, introducing culture, whether it's food, language, especially people, that's what I would say that Peoria has. We have the people, we don't all look alike, we don't all think alike, we certainly have different opinions, but it really creates for I think a better quality of life when you can get to know people of all different walks of life and all different flavors.
Okay. Jim, same thing. Why shouldn't I buy a house in Morton or Washington rather than live in Peoria instead?
Sure. Peoria has many great neighborhoods throughout the entire city. I've had the opportunity to be an at-large member and visit many neighborhood associations, and as well as I'm campaigning here for mayor, getting a chance to visit so many different neighborhoods. I think that's one of our strengths that we have, is there's many different options for people to pick from. And certainly we have a very diverse community. And I think that's one of our strengths as well. And we have many different options for our retail and restaurants. There's a lot more activity going on in the city of Peoria. And it's all at a great price point. And once again, that anywhere in Peoria, that 15 minutes, I think, is that quality of life that people look for, that whether you're going from home to work, that you can be, or from home or from your work to your kid's school, that you can have that relationship with, still with your kids, to know their teachers, to be able to have that meeting with them in the middle of the day, or to attend their school practices and or sport activities. And you can do that while you live here in Peoria. And I think that's one of the great selling points. And the prices of our homes here are very well priced. Peoria overall is a really great experience.
Okay. See, we got a good cheerleader for the city in both of you there. Mark, I'm going to kick it back to you for a couple questions. Thank you all for putting your own questions in the Facebook Live chat. Keep putting those in. We're going to get to those soon.
Uh-oh.
You see, I knew my mic was muted this whole time, and I'm like, don't forget to unmute it, don't forget to unmute it, and of course I forgot to unmute it. But yes, I do see not only questions coming in, but also people joining the live as well too. So shout out to all you guys. We appreciate you guys tuned in to the platforms of both candidates for mayor. I'm going to stay on the money with Chris. Peoria Public Schools received more than $800 million from cannabis sales as part of the Restore, Reinvest, and Renew plan. With that being said, being the former whiskey capital of the world, is cannabis an industry that Peoria should be taking a more aggressive approach on for economic development? I'll start with Rita.
So it was 800,000, not 800 million, just to clarify. Okay.
Correct.
And
Whoa,
so,
Yeah, that changes everything.
so, but that decision, you know, in terms of giving some of the proceeds, a percentage of the proceeds to the school district, I think was a very smart decision. And, you know, other educational institutions will also receive some money from the profits, from the proceeds. So these businesses have, once they have a requirement under the regulations of cannabis sales that it's either $100,000 per entity or per business, or it's 3%, I think, of their sales. And typically, they rather give you the $100,000 because they're doing really well with the sales. So 3% is usually a lot higher than what they've taken in. So I would say that decision was a state decision in terms of cannabis. It's legal now, you know, as long as you're not carrying, you know, an abundance so it is legal. I accept the fact that it's legal. It's not something that I see being changed anytime soon. It's certainly a regulated business, and I think a growing business for Peoria. So yes, as a council member, there were, I think, there are unanimous decisions in terms of allowing businesses to set up in certain parts of our city. There's numerous cannabis businesses, and that product that you use for medical cannabis as well is really growing in popularity. So I think it is an opportunity, just like other businesses, that we have to embrace at this point. It's a legitimate business in terms of within our state, within our city. It is bringing in some revenues. It is creating new businesses in our area, and it's addressing some of the medical needs of some individuals within our community. I hope I answered your question, Marcus.
Yes, Jim, same question. Is this something that we should be aggressively seeking after as a local community, not just dispensaries, but just the ancillary businesses that come along with cannabis?
So yeah, once again, you know, the business is very much regulated by the state on, you know, when we start talking about the dispensaries, and we are moving very carefully through this as a city. As far as the other products, and perhaps there's more to be investigated there. I certainly respect and think the medical area is areas for growth. And it's amazing once you start focusing on small and medium-sized businesses, which that is part of my platform, is to help the businesses grow and expand. There will be innovation, and perhaps once these businesses are up and going, somebody will find this opportunity and a niche to work that. And you know, that's just part of when you're helping small and medium-sized businesses grow and expand. That might be something that happens with it. I think from our side as a city, what we can do is to make sure that, like we have right now, as a loan that we get through federal money, to make sure that money is available for small business loans, and or some of the federal money that that's going through the city, to make sure that those grants are available for these small businesses or medium-sized businesses, or I guess any size really. But those are usually where the focuses are at, to making sure that they have access to the financials, that we have a city that is advocating for more growth. So I think those are the things that we can do as a city.
So we know that we're in an economic slump. We talked about it at length, not only for the last primary and general election piece, but for the last couple of years. But different people have different stances on how to grow it. Can we build back the economy from within, or do you feel that we need to maybe cast a net for a big size employer? And I'll stay with you, Jim.
Trying to go after the big company and bring them in here, that is difficult to do, and it takes a lot of resources to do it. Why not focus on those who already have an investment here in our community? some for many generations. Those are the businesses that we should be focusing on, our small and medium-sized businesses. Through that's going to be the sustainable growth for the future. Much like a city in like Littleton, Colorado, where they focused on small businesses. They had a large company decide to cut thousands of jobs and left their city in chaos. And they focused. It took them some time to figure out. Let's focus on small, medium-sized businesses. They today have so many diverse businesses there. They said a big company that would ever leave. There's no one company that could ever hurt their community that bad because of the decision that they made to focus on small and medium-sized business, helping them grow and expand new customers into new markets. That's exactly where the city needs to be focusing our efforts on. I'll go ahead and stop there.
Okay, Rita, same question. Is this something that we grow from the inside out, or do we possibly need to lure another company to come help jumpstart the economy here in Peoria?
So I think we have to do both. We have to work on growing our existing businesses within Peoria, helping them to build greater capacity so that they can expand and hire more employees. We have to also prepare our workforce to have the skills for the existing jobs that we have. We have so many jobs right here in our community, especially in the medical field, that we don't have the skilled people to fill those jobs. So we have to prepare our workforce. We have the people here. We have to prepare them with the skills to assume those positions. But yes, build the capacity of our existing businesses. We have some great brand new businesses that are beginning to expand. I'm talking to several employers because I work in the field of workforce within Illinois Central College, which is the largest workforce development organization within our region, along with the skilled trades organizations. But we also have to attract new businesses to our area. We've had businesses that have left. Of course, with the restructuring of Caterpillar, we've lost so many individuals. We've lost a lot of Caterpillar suppliers that employ people to our area. So, I think one approach is those businesses that are associated with the medical field who can be more suppliers for our growing medical employers here, our medical organizations within the community. But we have to grow the small and medium-sized businesses and attract them to our area, build our capacity with our existing businesses, but also build an economic development strategy that attracts new businesses to our area.
Thank you.
If I could just expand on that just a little bit too.
Sure.
What our community is in need of is pro-growth policies. And just in our last council meeting, we went forward with a tax abatement on new homes to be built in First District. It's something that will put people to work. It will create new houses and new people into the First District. It was something I think is a policy that we need to be focusing on. It's something that I supported and something that my opponent did not support. Other types of pro-growth policies that we should be focusing on is like abatement of taxes on any building or any business that's going to expand their footprint. We need to be working with them on that type of abatement. I would like to bring forward a moratorium on our new building fees. I think that's really important. And I also have a group of businesses that want to come in and help change the mindset of the entire area of that Peoria is a tough place to do business. I'm ready to go with this group of people that want to see change happen in Peoria. We need more pro-growth policies.
That's the direct response we were looking for the cannabis. Rita, you can go.
Yes, I thank you for giving me an opportunity to rebut what my opponent just said, because, he signed on to Councilman Kelly's proposal, the tax abatement, but he brags about being on the council for 12 years. 12 years, where were your pro-growth policies in all those 12 years? Yes, you've signed on with Councilman Kelly, but all those years, I don't see where you were introducing these pro-growth policies that you're talking about right now. You know, 12 years, where has the progress been in 12 years? In 12 years, we've lost so many services, we've lost so many staff, we've had reductions in, again, community development, public works. We've been on decline in the last 12 years, and that's under your watch, Councilman.
Yeah, my response to that is I created a business roundtable in my district, which that particular corridor has one of the highest sales tax revenue generators for our city, in case you haven't looked into that. Working with those businesses is something that I want to take forward across all of the city and be business friendly. I'm not sure what you've done as being on the council for two years, not seeing any action out of you and trying to help businesses grow and expand.
We'll move on. Rita, did you have something you wanted to say?
Yeah, I was just going to say that is not true. I have addressed issues related to social and economic issues affecting our city, and will continue to do that. And in just 2 years, there's been some significant votes that I've taken in support of both business as well as other social economic issues. I helped with the creation of the City County First Commission on Racial Justice and Equity that, in my opinion, is going to help to address not just social issues, but eventually economic issues that affect our community as well. Under my guidance, we finally got a workforce analysis done that had not been done in a comprehensive way in over 11 years within the city of Peoria. We were out of compliance. We're back in compliance now because of that leadership that I took. So 2 years, I'm proud of what I have accomplished in the last couple of years.
My first year on the council as an at-large member, I brought women and small businesses together with our purchasing to teach them how to do business with the city. That has resulted in hundreds of thousands of dollars in contracts to small businesses, women-owned and minority businesses. Those are just a couple policy changes that I made with the council.
Okay, we can move forward. So the 61605 zip code has been the most talked about area in Peoria in recent years, even before the primary elections. It's one of the most economically disadvantaged zip codes in the state, and is part of the reason why we landed on the list of the worst cities for Blacks in America. Without getting into the candidates and the race for District 1, what do you think has happened to the district, and what do you think needs to happen in District 1? Do you think the city has left it behind as it continues to build outward? We'll start with Rita.
There's been decades of disinvestment in Peoria 61605. The Economic Innovation Group, EIG.org, you can look it up, has identified Peoria 61605 as one of the most distressed communities in America. On a score of 1, the most prosperous, and 100, the most distressed, Peoria 61605 scores a 99.6. It hardly gets any worse. 44% of the adults in that zip code area are not working. 30% of the adults in that area do not have a GED or high school diploma. There are pockets of census tracts in that area where the citizens that live there, the residents that live there, are living, 88% are living below the poverty line. We have some serious issues to address, and that area must be transformed. And I've been working with a group of community-based organizations, businesses, education entities to begin to transform 61605. It's called the Peoria Cradle to Career Initiative, and it focuses initially on the children within that area, making sure from the time that they're born to the time that they graduate from high school, get a post-secondary education, and enter a job paying a family-sustaining wage, that they are supported all that time. When I grew up on Peoria's South Side years ago, Of course, I live in 61615 now, but there were over 33,000 people that lived there. There were grocery stores, there were businesses that were ethnically owned, diverse business ownership, and it was a very integrated neighborhood. It is less racially integrated. The lack of quality housing, over 50% of the housing stock is not maintained. There's over 900 empty lots. We are only as strong as our weakest link. That's our weakest link. It's one of the weakest links in the state and one of the weakest links in the country. We must do something about it. And there's a lot of people, businesses, and support that want to address those issues under the Peoria Cradle to Career Initiative. And I'm proud to say that I'm helping to lead that effort.
Okay, thank you. Jim.
Yeah, I think that's a really nice program that you put together through your job at ICC. I spent hours last weekend and yesterday as I'm campaigning and talking to people, and through First District. There is a tremendous amount of help that is needed. The thing that I heard back from the meetings on people's doorsteps and talking to them, what is needed is something like that I have been doing, having a monthly meeting with people to get things done in their neighborhoods. That is a missing element. They have not seen candidates, nor have they seen other council representatives down in their community. I will be there for them to help with some of this change, and not only doing that with these meetings, but also meeting with the businesses. They like the message of what I've done in the 4th District and wanting to do that across the city and specifically and throughout the areas in 1st District.
And with, I got another question, but I'm going to, Rita mentioned something. I kind of want to address it to both of you guys. There's been talk about the city sprawl, that it's gotten too big with regard to the square mileage that Peoria is and how much we're not growing to fill that square mileage up. Is that an issue that we have here in the city of Peoria? And if so, how do we reduce that? Obviously, we can figure out how to lure people in to come to Peoria and fill that area out. But has that been an issue, especially when we talk about the 1st District and how populated it used to be, and now people move north and north and north and north, and we see the District 1 get left behind? Is that part of the problem or what? I'll stick with you, Jim.
That's the one thing that's very obvious is there's a lot of empty lots in 1st District. And for example, this tax abatement is a great one. New homes could be built in some of these neighborhoods. It will put people back to work. It will put new things in these, they'll put new houses in these neighborhoods. And I think that's how you start to change a neighborhood. Hopefully there's new energy that comes in that will help change that and give people some a different perspective on things. I think that is something that's really needed. Certainly we have a large footprint that we're covering. I think it's important that we focus on those areas that we can fill in those areas with businesses and look for, besides the businesses and how the community can work better. We need not to be growing anymore. That would be something I would definitely say. We definitely have our hands full with a lot of area to cover.
Rita?
Well, I think that we have annexed as much as we can. At this point, I think we're pretty landlocked, and we do have a lot of acreage we have a lot of land to fill. We've seen with Peoria 61605, we see an exodus of population. And when you see the population leave, you see the businesses leave, you see the schools consolidate. There's no grocery store, of course, in the area, and other businesses are starting to leave. Also, there's a lack of quality housing there. Sometimes people get upset that people are moving from the south side to the East Bluff or to the West Bluff or to other areas of Peoria. And they're saying all these people are moving from the south side. Well, guess what? there's a lot of people from the South Side, many that want to stay on the South Side. That's been their home. There's been the home for generations of their family. They want to stay, but there's a lack of quality housing on the South Side. As I mentioned, 50% of the housing has not been maintained. There are homes that are that have been demolished, that will be demolished, that have not been replaced. So we have to, and there's a lack of housing stock right in Peoria. It's a problem throughout the state. It's the problem throughout the nation. But we need to get some new housing within the areas that are older neighborhoods, because people would choose to live there if there were more quality housing. So I think that one thing that we can do with these empty lots is create opportunities for investors to build there, to restore, rehab some of the dilapidated housing that we have there, and to make an investment. And I would call upon it with regard to the South Side. I would call upon the South Side alumni, people of many different races and ethnicities that grew up there, that have fond memories, that really want to see something positive happen in this area. Give them some of that property at a reduced rate, or maybe even free. Allow them to have a plan to build condos or duplexes or single family homes, and bring people back to this area that has been deserted or is being deserted.
And I want to ask you a follow-up to this, and Jim, feel free to chime in on this too. New housing, we can do that. Is that enough? Because there's always been, again, I'm younger than both of you, but there's always been a general consensus that if you live on the South Side and you're able to move out of the South Side, then you've made it. So how do we change that narrative for people to stay on the South Side, remain on the South Side, and maybe even relocate from a different area to the South Side? Either one of you guys can jump in on that.
Well, I'll go first, just because I grew up on the South Side, and as an adult, I moved, to different areas of the city. I have lived in each of the 5 different districts over my adult life. I live in District 5 now, but, at some point I had moved out of the South Side, and I was maybe in my early 30s. I decided I was 28. I was going to buy a house. I was about 26 or 27. I bought a house on Marquette Street, not far from Manual High School. That was the first house that I ever bought. And I lived there for over 10 years. And ultimately, I ended up moving out. But I moved there because I wanted to reinvest in the area that I grew up. But let me tell you what happened. The area had been in decline without investment, and the crime had picked up. And I was outside my home with my new granddaughter, and there was a random drive-by that happened. And there were break-ins that were happening in my neighborhood. The neighborhood was becoming less of a homeowner neighborhood and more tenants. But that day, when my granddaughter and I were almost shot because there was that incident, I decided that I was going to move. And I hate that. I still work in that community. I still love that community. I'm vested at helping to reduce crime in that community, to bring back businesses. My mother lives in 61605. My brother lives in 61605. So I care about that community, but there are reasons why people move at times in their life.
Jim, do you have anything to add in on this? How can we make District 1 just as attractive as District 5?
Once again, we got to focus on pro-growth policies. And much like the one we just passed, the tax abatement for new homes, that can be very significant for First District. And I'm hoping that we start to expand that across our entire city in the areas that are most needed to see some growth. But we need to focus on that type of tax abatement for new home development. And as well, from what I understand, this is probably in the works to have the tax abatement also be for rehabs. But once we start implementing pro-growth policies, abatement of taxes for any building expansion, moratorium of new building fees, helping with business roundtables in specific areas. That's how you do it. We need to make sure that we are focusing on those efforts to get business growth. That's what I see probably one of the most significant things that's needed. If there's businesses there, they're growing, expanding, there's jobs, people want to work. And that's what we need to be able to do is help clear the way for these businesses to open and expand, give them some incentives to do it. That's the number one thing that we have to focus on the city. I've been saying that since the beginning of our of my campaign here for mayor, and that's what we need to be focusing on.
And real quick, Jim, you mentioned just overall business friendliness in general. How do we get them to be in the first district, though, on the south side as opposed to anywhere else in the city?
I just kind of explained that. It's with incentives for businesses to be able to come in there and make that happen.
Okay, thank you. Black residents have the highest poverty rates in Peoria. Some would say people need to pull themselves up by their bootstraps. We hear that all the time, while others could say that the city should do something about it. In your view, can this economic divide be solved by city government, or is it incumbent upon the residents of Peoria to pull themselves up? We'll stick with you, Jim.
Years ago, and I remember this story, my mom and dad buying their first house. My parents were married at 19 and 21 years of age. They were able to buy a house through a federal program where they did some work in their lawn, the yard. They had to do some painting of the inside and the outside, and that was their down payment for a 3-bedroom house in a neighborhood with a school that I could walk to school. Those types of programs, I'd like to see what federal really does for that. That encourages home ownership, and I think that's the key. And we need to be doing our job to making sure that Peoria is a place of business and opportunities, because it was the job that my dad had, and it was a blue-collar job, and working the same job for 45 years. My mom and dad still live in that same house today, and it's through hard work that people do that they're able to make equity in their home. And it should be the same method today. It's having a job so that you can pay the bills, and that's our part from the city. What we need to do, we need to be encouraging pro-growth policies to make sure there are opportunities and jobs for people.
Rita, same question.
Can you repeat that, please?
No problem. Black residents in Peoria have the highest poverty rates. Some would say people need to pull themselves up by their bootstraps, while others would say that the city should do something about it. In your view, can this economic divide be solved by the city government, or is it incumbent upon the residents of Peoria to pull themselves up?
Okay. Well, some people don't have bootstraps to pull themselves up. And, I think that it has to be a comprehensive strategy that involves many organizations, education institutions like Illinois Central College, that has many equity programs that target African Americans because of the disproportionate impact that they have experienced in terms of poverty, in terms of education issues. We need to have equity focus, but government definitely has responsibility to address the inequities, and that's one of the responsibilities and the charge of the new Racial Justice and Equity Commission, to focus on 8 different areas of inequity and really injustice in many cases. And those areas include jobs, education, youth development, transportation and mobility, quality housing, environment. The environment in some areas is very toxic to people's health, and we have to address issues of environmental ills within our community. So it takes the village. Honestly, it's not. You can't say it's just the people's responsibility. It's just government's responsibility. It's just the employer's responsibility. It's really all of us working together. We're all stakeholders. And I want to pull all of us together, both the citizens, the key stakeholders within the community-based organizations who address the needs of people with multiple barriers, including African Americans, Hispanics, Latinos, those that are those that are disproportionately impacted. We have to work really as a more of a family in our community. When one part of our family is hurting, it honestly does impact the other part. If you check out that economic innovation, EIG.org, you'll see even the community that I live in, 61615, 10 years ago, it scored in the area of prosperous on that distressed communities index. Well, today, 10, 11 years later, it scores in the area of comfortable. When one part of our city is declining and distressed, eventually it's going to impact those other areas that are of our city that are more prosperous. So we have to work together as a community in addressing those issues, whether we live nearby those communities or not, they're a part of our family.
Okay. Chris, if it's okay with you, I want to get to the audience questions. Did you want to jump that off, or I can get it started?
Yeah, I've got a couple in there that I picked out that I know we want to get to, and I'll kick that off. I think you got to pay some bills first, though, Mark, right?
Get some bills real quick. Just audience questions are brought to you by RhondaGuydenTravel.com. So did you want to get that started, or do you want me to?
Let me go ahead and start off with this one that's partway down on the list. Jaquel asks, what can be done about food deserts? Do you have a specific plan to meet this basic need for people in those areas? And here we would be talking about South Peoria and the East Bluff.
So within the Peoria CCI, the Cradle to Career Initiative, we've actually touched on the fact that there are food deserts within that area. There's also really a food desert in 61603 zip code as well, though there's some kind of mini marts, but that's not a full-scale grocery store with really fresh food and vegetables. So I think that there are some interim steps that we can take, and some of those involve transportation. It's unfortunate that we have to take people from one community to another community to get food when they should have food easily accessed within their own community. So I think, we have to look at possibly some cooperatives. There are some areas like Inglewood, California, Inglewood, Chicago. It's one of the highest crime areas in Chicago. It's called Inglewood, where a Whole Foods has set up a discount store. They've hired people within the area to work in the store. They have fresh food and vegetables. It's a model that they actually use for low-income communities. If they can do that in Inglewood, and it's been successful, I think it's been going on for 2 years now, we ought to look at that. I believe that Hy-Vee also has a discount type of strategy for more lower income communities. So we have to have some stopgap measures. We have to be focused, and we have to be committed. And the Peoria CCI initiative is actually taking a look at that in conjunction with SCUC, which is the Southside Community United for Change. It's an umbrella organization for all the neighborhood associations within the South Side. They're on board with the strategy, and they want, to take a leadership role in addressing the food security issues of their neighborhood. The same with the near north side. We need to do something about the food deserts in both of these areas because it's affecting the lifestyle, the quality of life, and even the health of individuals that reside in those communities.
Okay, and Jim, same question to you.
Sure, it's really about the economics, and if you work your way backwards, when somebody opens up a business, they have to, the whole purpose of the business is to profit from it. The economics aren't making sense for them to have a store there, which when you start taking a look at the cross section of it, it goes right back to, we need to be looking at growing businesses inside those areas. We need to be rebuilding, which would be part of the purpose of having a tax abatement so that you can have new home development, growing more population in there so it can support a grocery store. When the business is there and a business person will see that opportunity and will open up the grocery store so that they can profit. It's truly just about economics, and we need to be focused on that part to filling in all the holes that we have in those communities with new homes, with new people moving in and creating that excitement of new development. That's creating jobs. People will be down there, and that starts to rebuild. I mean, it's a rebuilding issue that we have in those parts of the community.
Okay, early on in the question thread, and I'm gonna press you for specific policy, specific program on this question, rather than broad generalizations. But both of you, and Jim, I'm going to start with you. What is your plan to bring head of household jobs to Peoria? From Karen.
Yeah, so it's the thing that I've been talking about here. It's pro-growth policies. We got to focus on these tax abatements for new homes being built, abatement of taxes when companies expand their footprint, moratorium of new building fees, creating a business roundtable, so to speak, to help Peoria be a business-friendly place that is known throughout the area here. Those are the things that we need to be working on, with a specific emphasis working on helping the businesses here, our small, medium-sized businesses, grow and expand. And the medical industry seems like one that's doing very well. We should certainly focus on those businesses and that supply chain. Those are going to be head of household jobs. Once those businesses are, once we help them grow and expand new customers into new industries, we're growing back population in Peoria. That's the direction that we have to be working on in Peoria.
Okay. Rita, to you.
Sure. Currently, only 40% of the adults in our region have a post-secondary credential, a labor market credential that leads to a job paying a family sustaining wage. To be a strong economy, 60% of the adults in a region need to have those types of skills, a post-secondary skill or credential that is valued by the employers in the area. So one thing that we have to do is prepare our residents with post-secondary skills and credentials. We have to work with key partners in education and in the trades to build the skills of our residents so that they are more prepared to get the kinds of jobs that pay higher wages. There is a living wage scale out there. It was built by MIT. I think the Department of Labor actually contracted with them, but it's called, basically it identifies each area, like Peoria, for example, and it says the living wage for one person in Peoria is about $12 an hour. 30% above that is about close to $15 an hour. So, for one person, we want them to be at least about $15 an hour in terms of wages to support themselves. But if you add one child to that equation, the family sustaining wage for that family, for that individual, goes up to about $22 an hour. One child, because you have to take into effect child care and all the needs of that additional person. The needs of a family are much greater in terms of insurance, health insurance, and it just really increases dramatically. So we have to get to the point, if they are a family with one child, then we have to get to the point of preparing them for jobs that pay at least $22 an hour. Again, for one person, 15, for two people, at least 22. The more people or the more children you add on within that family, the higher the need is. So, that's the challenge that we have, but we can do it. We can work together. There are some initiatives with the Regional Workforce Alliance, the CEO Council, with the Peoria Chamber of Commerce, with Illinois Central College, with many community partners and employers who are working toward increasing that 40% to the 60% to help to build our economy.
Okay, I'm going to hit one more here, and there's a chance we could have some fun with one because I sense at the end of this campaign we both could use a drink. So Conrad Stinnett wants to know, for each of you, do you support an active and ongoing effort to revive large-scale brewing and distilling in Peoria? Rita, we'll stick with you and then go to Jim.
Just like the cannabis industry, the brewing industry is a business. When we first moved here, when I was a kid, my dad went to work for Caterpillar. He went there, because that was a job. He stayed there until he retired for 38 years. My mother worked off and on, and she worked for Hiram Walker. You guys don't remember this place, but it was it was a brewery, an alcohol distributor. But my mother worked there off and on for many years. It provided many jobs in our community. Pabst Blue Ribbon. Oh, I'm really dating myself here, but there's been a lot of these types of industries within our community that have provided jobs. So, I would treat it just like any other employer.
Okay. Jim?
Yeah, absolutely. That's the one thing that I notice when you do traveling. Well, it's been a little while since we've done some traveling, but the times that I do traveling and we go out for dinner, I myself like to try different beers from different communities. I think that's probably a growing trend. I've not quite studied this particular industry, but certainly it's something that Peoria has been known for in its history. And maybe there's a revival of it that it could happen again. There seems to be a market for it, and what should be something that we could study and learn from those who are at least doing it on a small scale here that want to grow. Certainly we should be able to work with them and see how we can help them expand their businesses and grow here in Peoria.
Okay. Mark, I'm going to toss it over to you for a couple more questions from the thread.
Sure thing. This one comes from Jeremy. He says, if qualified immunity goes away for police, will either of you offer liability insurance from the city so the officers can still do their job? We'll start with Rita.
I'm not really clear on the question that police would lose their insurance. Am I misinterpreting the question? I mean, I don't see that police would be losing their health insurance or liability. Oh, liability insurance. Okay, let me just read the question. If qualified immunity goes away for police, will either of you offer liability insurance from the city? Oh, so that the officers can still do their jobs. Boy, that's quite a question. I can't answer that. I don't know that. I honestly, I don't have an answer for that. That's a conversation that I would like to pursue, and I'm willing, Jeremy, to learn more about that and how that might impact officers.
Yeah, so my response would be for that. Certainly we need to make sure that we're using our home rule in every way that we can to support our police department, support our officers in the event that situation happens. So I don't know a lot of that detail right now, but I'm sure we would be headed in that direction to find out what is it that we have to do as a city to protect our police officers.
Okay, and this one comes from Leah, and the question is, do you support the pension tax? If so, why? We'll stick with you, Jim.
So I have taken a vote on this already, and it's something that I do not support, and will not be supporting it again when it goes forward. I think, it's incumbent upon our city here. I mean, the whole pension is a big discussion that needs to happen. One that we have a game plan going forward, both working to come up with a short and medium and long-term type plan to deal with our pension issues, continuing the work with other mayors in the cities around Illinois to put pressure on our legislators to come up with change. They write these bills into place where the city has to pay called unfunded, pensions here. They need, they write the bills and the laws that we have to pay. It'd be nice for them to be part of this solution. They kind of just kick it over to us and expect us to solve this problem, which we can't. So right now we are in the position where we're going to have to pay, but we need to be working with them and pressuring them for change to happen in the future.
Okay, and there's a comment that I was going to use as a question that was oh, go ahead, Chris.
Rita, I think you've got to answer that too still.
Sure. I wasn't on the council when the initial pension tax was voted on, but I'll tell you, it was decided by the council, by the majority of the council, to put this question on the ballot for April 6th. And if you vote early, I'm sure you've already seen it. But the question asked is whether the city should increase annually the pension tax for the police and for fire. And they've actually separated now into two questions, really pitting police against fire. Which one do you prefer? Do you want to pay the tax for the police? Do you want to pay the tax for the fire? I did not agree with putting the question on the ballot because I think we already know the answer. The answer is no, that the citizens do not want to pay an increase in the pension tax. They don't want to pay the pension tax at all. So why waste people's time putting those questions on the ballot other than to use their answers to further cut police and fire positions? And so, I voted against that. I voted no. And it's unfortunate that we even have to be bothered with those questions on the ballot. So in terms of increases annually, my answer is no.
I'm going to follow up on that with both of you, though, because very clearly there's an issue here of an increasing cost. Certainly, and both of you have expressed this, that you hope that the state can help us in getting a handle around this issue. But whichever one of you is elected, 6 months from now, you got to do a budget for 2022. The state has not so much as held a hearing on a fix, and tomorrow's April 1st. 6 months from now, you got to put together a budget for 2022. The current public safety pension fee goes away. That's $1.8 million you got to come up with to replace it. We're supposed to go up another $2 million in what we pay. So you got just shy of $4 million of new costs you've got to come up with for next year, in addition to what we're paying already. So I hate to be the guy who says, let's do some math, but Rita and then Jim, do the math. Where's that $4 million extra dollars coming from in 6 months?
Sure. I agree. It's a very complex issue, Chris. It's a matter of looking at our existing budget. We know that we don't have a lot in our existing budget to cover some of these costs. One thing that we have not done effectively over the years is build our capacity to generate external funds to help with the work that we have here, to help with the services that we have here. And I'm not talking about a one-time grant. I'm talking about multi-year private sector, federal government grant opportunities to expand the type of revenues that we take in. I'm also talking about generating revenues, having a focus on generating revenues. We've had a focus on cut. And that's what we've done. We've effectively cut. but we have not effectively brought new revenues in. That's something that I've done over my career. I've done it in my work at Illinois Central College. Even within my division of over 300 people, about 80% of my budget at Illinois Central College within my division is externally funded, not just counting on the funds that we have within our budget, but finding ways to actually raise money through competitive grant opportunities. And that's one thing that's a skill that I bring. I've been very successful with that. And I think that the city of Peoria can build its capacity to do some of the same.
Okay, Jim, the same question to you. Where do we get that $4 million, 3.8 that we've got to have next year to cover the increasing cost? Where do you come up with that in 6 months?
Sure. So first of all, the question is hypothetical. Who knows what the people are going to go to the polls and do? So that'll be interesting to find out how we're going to work with our budget. But once again, I think it's going to be really important. And I said this earlier, this money that we're coming into with the COVID relief, that we use this money very wisely so that we have money in the coming years to be able to focus on basic city services. And perhaps there'll be dollars left over to help pay for these pension obligations as we move forward. And I've said it all along here, we have to focus on pro-growth policies that encourage expansion for our businesses, get this economy moving. People will be hired into Peoria. We start growing. We need people in our community to help pay the bills. We have to grow. We have lost over 10,000 people in our community over the last 10 years. We need new business growth, and we need this now to happen tomorrow. That's the direction that we need to be moving and going forward.
Okay, Mark, you got some more?
Yeah, I got one more kind of a comment, but it also seemed like it'd be a good question as well too. And I know a lot of people talk about issues with bigger stores like this. But Dennis says Walmart is the real reason for the food desert. The small stores can't compete with that monster. Real quickly, just what do you guys respond to that? Because it's not new that brick and mortars have been initially small businesses. Walmart was getting to them, and now small businesses and just brick and mortar in general, Amazon is getting to them. What is you guys, and again, keep it short, but what are you guys' thoughts on that?
Well, the big box stores have definitely competed against the smaller retail shops, and they're able to buy in bulk, and they're able to provide products at much cheaper. I really think it's been more so with the online industry, and we're still not getting what we're due for those online sales. And that's another issue that's being taken up by the state that I hope we can get some resolution and begin to collect some retail sales tax off of online sales, because that's where I think from Amazon and other online retail sales that we're really losing business. It's hurting, but I think we have to be competitive. Even our small businesses have to be innovative and sometimes have an online element as part of their business offering.
All right, and Jim?
Sure, and we've seen this throughout the whole COVID here, how unfair it's been to our small businesses to see the Walmarts and the Targets being able to open up when they have so many people going through their stores, but yet they're able to manage the cleanup and making it safe for people, while our small businesses have not been able to open it and open their doors. Why I think they have a better chance of being able to clean up their stores and make it safe in there. It's not been fair for them. So when things are all even, I think the small businesses have to compete on their uniqueness and have to be that boutique shop that offers something different. I think Peoria is very much open to working with or shopping at these small retailers because they go there for the uniqueness of it. It's not necessarily going for the cheapest prices every day. So that's, I mean, those are my perspectives on it. And I think our small businesses do a good job competing when it's fair for them. This whole COVID time has not been fair for them. I wish that would have been something that had been changed from the top down, from all the way from federal to our state. Really poor choices from our governor and our legislators not putting enough pressure on our governor to change that mindset.
Okay, and I just have two more quick questions, and then anything that Chris has, we'll jump off into the lightning round. So please just be mindful of time as you guys answer these last two questions. I want to bring the kids in. Kids, we all know the future and everything like that. PPS, Peoria Public Schools, and the City of Peoria are two different entities with their own budgets and their own agendas and everything like that. But students and education continues to be a concern for citizens of Peoria. Are there areas of opportunity where Peoria Public Schools and city government could work together, and if so, where? And just in general, when we talk about kids, camps, activities, programs in general, what can we do, and what would you want to do as mayor to figure out how to bring kids back as a priority for the city of Peoria? We'll start with you, Rita.
Sure. You know, I have a very close working relationship with Peoria Public Schools. Within ICC as a partner of Peoria Public Schools, we have numerous programs, including Upward Bound, Talent Search, and you know, dual credit and dual degree programs and so forth. So we have that working relationships. I would love to see the city of Peoria have a stronger working relationship with Peoria Public Schools in terms of job programs that are done collaboratively. Jointly between the city of Peoria, perhaps even some student internships to take place within city government, the city working in collaboration with Peoria Public Schools and local businesses to give students that opportunity. You know, I think, you know, I was a youth programs director at one time, and I ran programs that supported kids while they were working half a day and going to school half a day. Now those kids are like in their 40s, and talk about what a great experience that was, getting to be employed and addressing some of their reading and math skills at the same time. So I think another area that we can work on together is getting McKinley School and Harrison School demolished. That has to be a joint working relationship. I've already spoken with the superintendent of Peoria Public Schools. She's very interested in a plan to put together a strategy where we can get those schools demolished in perhaps an 18-month time period. And I think that we can find funding to get those eyesores and those hazards demolished in our community.
Okay, and Jim?
What was that question again?
You're good. Peoria Public Schools, City of Peoria, two different entities. How can we get them? Is there anything that you would want to do as mayor, to work alongside Peoria Public Schools for the benefit of the kids? And are there any type of programs or initiatives that you want to do with the youth in mind, to where the city of Peoria can bring back a priority for the city's youth?
Sure. You know, I think first and foremost, you know, our part from the government is making sure that for the kids going to school, their way to school and their way home, that we have good sidewalks, curbs and roads. That way for them to go to school is really important for them, and the way home. So that's just one of the things that we can work on, and making sure that it's a safe neighborhood in and around the school. You know, being able to use the voice of the mayor to encourage internships for with our businesses and the schools, or I should say students. I think that's something that we could work on. And certainly if there's opportunities to work for the city on projects, whether it's over the summer or if there's some part-time jobs that, even if it's a few hours a week, It gives a student a chance to learn about business. I think those internships are really important, and the place where young students get to know about business and how things are done. So those are some of the things that I think would be important.
Okay, and last question from me. I'm not sure how many more debates or anything like that you guys have left, but for the people that have been following along the election and listening tonight, in just 2 short sentences, what would you say is the sharpest contrast between you two? We'll go with Jim first. Keep it short. The sharpest contrast when voters are going to the booth. What is the difference between Jim Montelongo and Rita Ali for mayor?
Sure. You know, I'm a seasoned 30-year business owner, entrepreneur, have faced tremendous competition from across the world and been able to answer. I have 12 years of serving on the city council with a great track record, with support from many neighborhood associations. I know what it takes to get things done in City Hall. I know I want to focus on businesses and helping get our community turned back around and growing jobs and opportunities for our people in Peoria.
Okay, and Rita?
Sure. Again, for the last 17 years, I've worked for the largest workforce development organization within our region, Illinois Central College. I've been a leader of this organization that employs over 1,200 people. I've managed multi-million-dollar budgets. I've managed crisis situations numerous times, and I've been successful in bringing in large sums, millions of dollars of external funds to do the important work within education and workforce development. And I bring that, I'm in touch with people from all parts and all walks of life within this community. And, you know, that's where I think I stand out in terms of being able to connect with everybody and really serve the needs of everybody, regardless of their income, regardless of their race or ethnicity, regardless of where they live within the community.
Thank you. Chris, do you have anything before we head to the lightning round?
I just want to ask this because, you know, again, across this region, whether it's fair or unfair, Peoria kind of gets compared to some of the cities around it, whether it's Springfield, whether it's Bloomington Normal, whether it's Champaign. I don't think anybody's ever compared us to Decatur. But you know, of those, you know, roughly similar mid-sized kind of cities, is there something specific about those? A program they've got, a policy they got, a restaurant they got, something that you think that we should try to emulate or do here or bring here? Rita, and then Jim.
Sure. The one that stands out to me is Amtrak passenger rail, that many of the college cities, including Macomb, including Normal, Illinois, Springfield, I believe, does too. But many of those cities have Amtrak passenger rail. They don't have to drive to another city 40 miles away to Galesburg or Bloomington to access a passenger rail that can take them to Chicago, St. Louis, and possibly to other places to connect to. So that's one area that I want to champion for. I think that our citizens should have that opportunity, to that type of access. Transportation is key to business within our community, is key to the quality of life, and Peoria should have that Amtrak passenger rail.
All right, Jim?
So when I take a look across the communities, you know, I'm very proud of all the natural resources and talent that we have here in Peoria, all the different industries that support Peoria, and education and training opportunities here in Peoria. With Bloomington just very close by, yes, they may have a large automotive industry over there. It's not too far from us. I think it's something that we could also grow in our community, and I would like to see those efforts to connect to the automotive industry here in Peoria. I think we have a lot of similarities with the manufacturing services that we offer here, to be able to support or even compete in those those industries.
All right. I think that's it from me. Mark, you want to take us into the lightning round?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So you guys both have done this. You guys ain't new, so we can just get to it. We're gonna get to the lightning round.
No fireworks.
You said what? No fire? No, still no fireworks. Still no fireworks.
Who would have thought that the biggest fireworks we'd have would be over tax abatement? 2 words that put you to sleep most of the time.
Well, you was almost all right with me, man. You was almost there, man. No fireworks. Man. So I'm going to give you guys a minute, 40 seconds. Of course, like I said before, either or quick fire questions, and we're going to give you guys a minute for you. Let me turn on my buzzer sound. Okay, we'll go. Jim, what is the activity or item that you spend way too much money on?
Ooh, hi, Starbucks.
Okay. Rita, who was the last musical artist you listened to?
Prince.
Jim, favorite board game?
Checkers.
Rita, Netflix or Hulu?
Netflix.
Jim, favorite athlete of all time?
Michael Jordan.
Rita, what's your main news source?
My main what?
Your main source of news?
CNN.
Rita, Jim, favorite vacation spot?
Disney.
Rita, what sport do you watch the most?
Basketball.
Jim, did you make a March Madness bracket, and who do you have winning?
Gonzaga.
Rita, favorite vacation spot? Did I say that already?
No.
A favorite vacation spot, Rita?
Oh, darn, Mexico.
Jim, is your toothbrush manual or automatic?
Automatic.
Rita, last book you read?
Oh, gosh. It's probably right here. But I know for sure. By Oprah Winfrey.
Okay.
Bedside.
Jim, favorite X-Men character?
Ooh, I don't have one.
Batman or Superman then?
Batman.
Rita, cake or ice cream?
Ice cream.
Jim, baths or showers?
Showers.
We got through a decent amount. Wrapping up, any endorsements that either one of you guys want to make for this election on April 6th? Can't say yourself, don't cheat.
I'm not touching it.
Jim?
No, I don't have any. I want them all to do well.
Understood. And lastly, both of you guys have to answer this, and we'll just keep it to one sentence. Jim, what do you like most about Rita Ali?
I like that Rita Ali's had a long time service working for ICC.
Rita, what do you like most about Jim Montelongo?
I love that. I used to do that with my niece and nephew. So I like the fact that he graduated from Bradley and started his own business, and he has sustained that business for many years now, engineering firm.
Okay, I like it. Chris, do you have anything else before we close out?
No, I'm very happy you both answered that very nicely about each other. We don't always get that.
Chris, real quick, voter reminder real quick.
Absolutely. You can still vote early all the way through April 5. And then on April 6 is the big game. We got the general election that day. So make sure either between now and then early or now and then live, you get out there and vote. It's important. Turnout is typically low in municipal elections. We can't let it happen here. Everybody get out and vote, please.
We don't know who the next mayor is, but we know who the next mayor isn't. But you guys get to choose who it is. So make sure you guys get out and vote. But don't wait till the 6th. Like Chris said, vote early. And this has been what is the last election installment of the State of Peoria, brought to you by State Farm agent Aaron Kilgore, located at 3805 North Sterling Avenue, where he specializes in car, home, and life insurance and investments. He's the best in the business, and you can make him work for you by calling 309-685-7111. Thank you to the audience. Thank you for everybody that asked some questions. We appreciate you guys tuning in. And Jim and Rita, we both thank you both for joining us once again.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.